Okay, we're moving on to the next passage in Test 1, Section 2. This is going to deal with question 10. It's a primary purpose of the passage type of question, and it's also considered a level 4 question. I think a couple of the answer choices, like 3 of the answer choices are really easy to eliminate, but then this is one of those classic difficult questions where you get it narrowed down to 2, and it's hard to figure out which one is better than the other. So let's take a look at this. All right, so focus on the question. As always, whenever we see primary, the primary purpose, we have to think about general. General, general, general. And in this case, you don't need to go back and reread. I just want you to think about the answer, right? So I want you to try to think, okay, in general, if I was going to write a one sentence or a one statement to summarize what this would be, what would I say? And I would say something about how African Americans stayed tied to their roots, to their heritage of Africa, and how Africa looks back at the Americans. Sort of this connection between the African Americans, their heritage, and Africa. Something about that's got to be in there. Again, you want to avoid anything that's going to be too specific. So here, this is the case that you want to avoid specifics because it's asking for the general or the primary purpose. Okay, let's keep moving on. Take a look at the answer choices. See if we can get rid of some of those specific things that are going to be trap answer choices. Okay, so we take a look at A, the impact Black Americans have had on African societies. Well, I don't ever remember them talking about African societies and how that Black Americans have impacted African society. So I'm going to eliminate that one right away. That's way too specific. If it was even in there, it would have been one example. It's definitely not the main idea. So that was an easy one to eliminate. Discuss Africans' efforts to embrace American culture. Okay, again, the whole idea of one culture over another is really not discussed. It's more about the relationship and their heritage, not about the culture. You could dive into it more about efforts to embrace American culture. It's never even mentioned, so it's wrong on many levels. But again, in order to eliminate it and feel good about eliminating it, you really only need one word that you feel strongly about that makes it wrong. C, point out the ambivalent feelings one community has for another. Well, I would say ambivalent is not the right word here. Ambivalent means not really one way or the other, sort of kind of neutral. And just like if you think of the word ambi means both, A-M-B-I. Ambidextrous, you can use both hands. Ambivalent means neutral, not feeling strongly one way or the other. And I would disagree with that because I would say that there are strong feelings mentioned in this passage. So, C's out. So those 3 are pretty easy to eliminate. As I had mentioned before, I think 2 answer choices can be a little bit more difficult. So let's take a look at both of those now. So D says, emphasize the significance of an ongoing relationship. Okay, so there is an ongoing relationship here between Black Americans and Africans. So there is an ongoing relationship. I'm going to keep that because one, it's very general. If you think about it, this answer could apply to any passage in which there were relationships that were continuing to go on. So that's super, super general. And I love general answers when it's a primary purpose of the passage question. And then E says, examine cultural ties between 2 nations. Okay. Again, I'm not so sure it's talking about the culture as much as it's talking about the heritage, but even if you were kind of caught up in that, let's take a look at this word nations. Africa is not a nation because the definition of a nation is a group of people with a similar government and or a country, and Africa is comprised of many nations or many governments. So that I can eliminate based off of that. Although I do see how E would be a big trap. So as a result, the correct answer is just an ongoing relationship. It's so general, but it's just not wrong. And those are always going to be best for the primary purpose of anything, whether it's the primary purpose of a paragraph, if it's the primary purpose of a passage, if it's a primary purpose of lines 1 through 17 or whatever it is they may ask. Anytime I see that word primary, I think general. So the big one that I used, of course, is general answers. And then the other thing I used are concrete words and ideas to get rid of the wrong answers. This is also happens to be a whole passage question. So those are the 3 techniques we used for this particular question. Thanks for watching, and best of luck.